only by frozen memories. It's fine. Racing on these broken trees tonight.
You'll be mine forever, even though you're far away. I still know we need to move in. We are together. Every time I think of you and it takes me to a special place in my mind where we can be together. And I still hope that you'll be mine forever, even though you're far away. I still know we need to move in. We are together.
I can't believe the night lay waste to all we'd given. But honestly, you've gotta know that this ain't living. But we could run it's nothing new. And my lover's honesty, I can push it back down if I have to. If you want me to, 'cause we can run, and we can run. The stars that fall all for you. So tell me now, what's left to lose if we
and welcome to the Reverie Esports Open number 76. I'm your caster FX, joined by the lovely Octavian, who's making return after an absence last week. And I just realized my mic's muted. Hold on. Sorry about that. My mic was muted. I think everybody but Octavian heard the intro. Sorry about that. Let's see. I think everything's up and running. Okay, we are starting off with our first match of the evening. I think my mic's on.
All right, I can hear you now. I apologize for that. My headset was not working appropriately, so I'm assuming you cued me in there and I was late to the mark.
Yes,
Apologies.
And also, to be fair, the first half of that was muted, so...
We're all sorts in a tizzy here, but to be fair, it has been a few weeks, actually, I think, since I've been on the desk at the very least. My graphics card bit the dust a little while ago, had to get that replaced, and well, my machine is running just fine now, but I wasn't able to attend last week's shoutcast, sadly.
Well, it's awesome to have you back. I'm happy to have you here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Excellent.
But we've got bans and picks as well. There was some chatter in the pregame lobby about Aurelion Sol, particularly from the mid laner here from DGG. So not surprised to see that one banned out. And in fact, every single ban that they've grabbed for themselves is mid lane centric. So that's quite a lot of respect towards ADC Vici, who I think is the real Vici. I'm not sure which one of these two players is the real Vici. They're messing with me.
I can see that. I'm going to have a difficulty separating the two of them. How dare they do this to me?
It's a roster that's got something of a sense of banter between each other, I'd say. Would be a good way to put it.
Well, speaking of mid lane bans, we also see a Cassiopeia and a Ryze ban. So that is 5 picks in the mid lane that are not going to be happening. So it should make it quite interesting to see what they pick up.
All right. Karma was the first pick here, by the way, by Clemson. And it's going to be answered with Janna Lee Sin. That is a heck of a lot of disengage already on the table. I think it makes some sense against a Karma pick. I mean, there's not much you can extrapolate outwards about a team composition from the single first pick, but Karma does like to engage, so picking some disengage is not too unfortunate for them. Fiddlestick seems unlikely, as do all of the other picks that have been hovered here, but Poppy was locked in as well. Some real solid picks so far going into the first few weeks of Reverie's time in Season 7.
And it is indeed going to be a Vi pickup, so it's almost certainly going to be jungle. Nothing a little unusual. We have seen it before a few times, but it's definitely not a weak pick in the right hands and when played correctly.
And Vi has been gaining pretty rapidly in popularity ever since Season 7 started, really. She's just a very highly reliable jungler. She can clear the jungle pretty quickly. A lot of the camps being changed over to more single target friendly clear as well is pretty good for her, though her AoE was never really that bad to begin with. And on top of that, she's able to dive to the backline to deal with these champions like Vayne and Twitch and all these hyper carries that are being picked in the AD carry position. So that's why we're seeing a lot more Vys nowadays.
I already hit you with my ultimate. Have fun being stunned.
But speaking of Vayne, that is going to be grabbed here by DGG, as well as a Maokai. So a very tanky, disengage-centric composition with the Vayne to protect. It's a composition that's certainly worked in the past. I don't think it's actually all that popular in the current meta to do a sort of protect the Vayne comp, but we'll see how it works out for them.
And we are seeing a Jinx lock-in, and we're hovering on a... Looks like we need a mid lane pick.
I like the Orianna a bit more than the Yasuo, but I don't think either would be that terrible. There's plenty of knockups for sure to enable the Yasuo here between Poppy and Vi. The Jinx is as well going to be a really hyper carry pick. It's going to be able to compete with the Vayne in the late game. So I actually really like the composition that Clemson has put together here. They've got the pieces they need to compete with what their opposition is doing, while also not sacrificing so much that they're purely reactive in their picks. And they've actually got like a sort of semblance of a composition themselves, which is to say that it's very, very well put together for engaging a fight, rather, with Karma, with Vi, and even Orianna to back that up.
And our last pick is going to be Victor, the usual pretty standard mid-range mage. since all the other ones seem to have been banned or picked.
Yeah, we're kind of whittled down to just these last few picks here in the mid lane, since 5 out of 6 bans were focused to that lane. So a lot of respect from both teams for the mid lane matchup here. And Vichy is a name that I've seen floating around the amateur scene for a while now. I've actually casted him in the past more than a year ago now for the Collegiate Star League. So he's a veteran of the amateur level and worthy of a good amount of focus, I'd say. And Roland Max is not a name I'm as familiar with, but we'll see how his Victor plays out here.
And on that note, we are entering our 3-minute delay. So we're going to enter a small, tiny commercial music break. And once we're in the game, we'll be back. So don't go anywhere, guys.
That carries them has kept me astray. Too soon to act on it, can we ever be? That all depends on what you're feeling from me. Let me show you all the way. Let me show you all the ways. Oh, let me show you all the ways. That carries them has kept me astray. Too soon to act on it, can we ever be? That all depends on what you're feeling from me. Let me show you all the way. Let me show you all the ways. Oh, let me show you all the ways.
And here we are on the Rift. Give me just a moment to fix my scoreboard, and we'll be ready to go.
All right. And it looks like Vichy is the real Vichy, who would have thought? Whereas ADC Vichy is not the real Vichy. I'm not actually entirely sure who that player is, who their name is, what their name is rather, when they're not gaslighting as their mid laner. But as long as they're going to keep me on the edge of my seat, I'm going to enjoy being there. So let's get into the match here, as it seems like both teams are going for a pretty standard spread across the river.
Just one little thing, you're little robot-y. Just
Oh, all right.
I can understand you, but it feels like you've turned into like the Terminator or something.
That's unfortunate. I'm not attempting to become a cyborg. No. Let me see if I can fix that up anyway, and we will hopefully have that solved very shortly. Let me just close up anything else that could be hogging my bandwidth at the moment.
Well, nothing too unusual. Both teams kind of doing their standard line of scrimmage. Both junglers are going to be starting at the bottom side of the map.
Oh man, please, Brucey. We're trying to cast here. If you could save your broadcast for later, we're in the middle of one right now. Poor Cascana has such great spam. Am I still roboting though?
A little bit. I'll give it a second.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I can do to combat that. I've shut down pretty much everything else. That I'm running some bandwidth on.
It's better, but it's still just a
hopefully
tiny
it
bit.
does result. If you can handle it for just a moment, I'm going to see if I can resolve this. Give me just a sec, folks.
Alrighty then. So, the directed camera likes the top lane, where absolutely nothing is going to happen until a gank happens. Darn you, directed camera. And back to bottom side. See that? I'm seeing Doc, Poke, Vachila, but make sure I memorize these players' names. Worth noting that this is not a healing lane. Both supports only provide shields. Let's look to see which support is better at providing said shields. Isolated, putting himself in position to get some poking. Doc taking a little bit of damage. And top lane is never mind. It's worth noting that Nash is actually having a little bit of faster clear here. He is maybe fast clear is not quite fair, but he has taken his second camp and now is working his way towards top. Whereas
I have returned.
There's just
hopefully
a
I
tiny
am
bit,
no longer.
but it's perfectly fine.
All right. I'm understandable.
Yes.
That's good. That's what I strive to be first and foremost as a caster, and as a human as well. I am not a robot. Please do not report me to the anti-robot police.
Robots have rights too.
I didn't say they didn't. I just said that I'm not one of them. But anything particularly interesting happen in my absence?
We had a gank in the top lane, but Binary dealt with it just fine and was able to escape without any issues. And
That's
Doc has
quite
been getting
confirmed.
poked out.
All right, yes, I kind of as anticipated in this lane. It's not quite as bad as the Caitlyn V-Ven chip, but ADC Vici on this Jinx can have the ranged advantage, a mega ranged advantage, almost at will. Caitlyn has it free. This Jinx does have to spend some amount of mana, but it still can be a little crushing, particularly in the fact that while landing those long-range rocket procs, you'll also pushing the wave and shoving it under the tower and just making Doc's life kind of difficult.
So I was thinking if I can do anything on my end to make sure nothing's interrupting you, but I've got everything off I can. Except the stream, of course. That would be the opposite of helpful.
I imagine so. Maybe we'd have a clear Discord conversation, but it would be just between us. In the end, though, we do want to get it broadcast every day. And Isolated is looking for the damage, but she is going to actually be landing a very nice set of chomps behind Doc. Lands quite a bit of damage, even though the chompers didn't proc. It still cut off Doc's escape and guaranteed a few more rockets landing as ADC Vici continues to push this advantage.
Binary getting a nice stun against the wall on Vayne. Vayne, that is Vayne, right? For representing an A. That's what I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking, directed camera seems to love this bottom lane, so I was thinking we were still talking about Doc. But in fact, yeah, we are talking about Vayne the player, not Vayne the champion, as Vayne's getting chased away by Binary. The Arcane Smash will keep Binary at a distance, as will the minion wave, though. And so Vayne will just about make that alive.
Both
That's
of them
Vayne
are
with a 4,
quite
not an
low,
A.
though.
As Percy is going aggressive here, and it's because he's got Nash coming in from the side. However, Vici is going to flash his way out of danger. Heal as well. Both summoners know off the Jinx. I'd still call that a very successful game from Nash.
Absolutely. Being able to force double summoners and an exhaust, that's just super solid. I mean, Doc is still low on health, but he's keeping up in CS, and here comes the repeat gank.
And very, very swiftly after the first one as well. Vici now without any summoners available. He's going to get stunned against the wall. That's first blood for Nash. Doc lands a bit more damage and isolated on the way out, but he may regret that as there's the flash in from Defy, and Alakai gets himself a return kill. Actually, it goes over to isolated there.
And back to top lane. Thank you, directed camera.
And the farm fest continues, but honestly, this has been a more interesting lane than perhaps you'd anticipate out of Poppy from Maokai. And because Binary's been playing rather aggressively, there's Vayne stunned against the wall once again. The twisting advance, though, dodges the second proc of the hammer damage.
And getting the, he's gotten multiple wall stuns, so Vayne's not playing quite as safe as he might consider. Taking a bit more damage than he might intend. You can see that it's reflected a little bit in his CS. He's a little bit behind. Not the end of the world amount. Of course, because the Maokai is not going to care too much.
And yeah, that's really the point to hit. You know, there's a break point with Maokai where it begins not to matter very much how far behind you are unless you are irretrievably far behind. And I wouldn't say that that's the case for Vayne, though he's sitting kind of on the edge of that. If he goes down for a death or two, if he gets dove here at this dangerous health total, then he could be in some trouble. But really, that doesn't seem like it's on the horizon, as Alakai's on the other side of the map, and Binary seems to want to base. Or perhaps not.
This directed camera does not like the mid lane at all. And I should, speaking of, I should fix
These teams had much emphasis on the mid lane. But that may have just resulted in, sort of counterintuitively enough, a bit of a uninteresting one as Binary's diving into the turrets solo. I anticipated perhaps a turret dive with the jungler waiting for Alakai, but no, he's going it alone and he's dying alone as Nash shows up to finish him off.
Byner not quite respecting the turret damage, thinking he could do enough to pick off Vayne while he wasn't paying attention, but it is a Maokai, and he is a little more durable than you might suspect.
Yeah, and even though Vayne's been bullied back in the lane over and over, he hasn't really played poorly. I mean, it's just because of the matchup, really. Poppy has dominance in that 1v1, and Vayne played that dive very well. He used his Twisted Advance to avoid some critical damage, keep Binary under the turret a little bit longer, and he even forced the flash and still got the killer. Rather, his jungler did, and snagged that on the way in. Rolling Max is getting pulled back to the shockwave there. One more auto from Vici is all it's going to do. He turns back around for the command attack, in fact, and gets himself the kill. The instant kickback from Nash. Alakai is going to be coming right back into the fight, though, as, Vici predicting the re-engage in the Lee Sin, flashes away from the Q. Doc, though, is going to get himself a kill with a Q of his own, tumbling into the wall for that extra damage. As Isolated is playing with fire here, Doc is going to come into the final hour, still having yet to burn that. He tumbles backwards off of the empowered Soul Flare, and he chooses that discretion is the better part of Valor here. But in the end, it's still a kill going over to the Vayne in a lane where he was having a bit of a rough time. And that's going to do a lot to repair that.
A very close fight there. And,
oh, yes, indeed.
I imagine is your Voice okay? 2 back-to-back fights with no break?
Oh, I'm just fine and dandy. That is exactly what they trained me for in the shoutcasting pits down in the deepest 70th layer of hell. That's where us play casters come from, if you didn't know. Here comes Alakai to the top lane, though. Vayne is going to be flashing right over that fist.
And Vayne is not interested in that noise. He's like, no. And we're seeing that Alakai is going to go ahead and go back to the jungle.
As things are looking decidedly rough, I'd say. Between these teams, the match is looking pretty even overall, but I think things are pretty rough down bottom lane for Clemson right now, actually, as Doc really shouldn't be holding even in this matchup. Vayne is doing a lot better in the current meta for sure, with a lot of the buffs that she received, and even just the way the invisibility works differently now. But still, she has her perennial problems of being outranged in a lot of matchups, and Jinx is certainly one of those matchups. So ADC Vici should have a much easier time of it than he has, but we see in all of these fights, which amounts to only 2 fights so far. But in these fights, Doc has been holding his own, and it's off the back of Vayne mechanics, which is something you can never really discount. There's tumble forwards, stepping now off of the chompers, and ADC Vegeta is going to be hunted down, some sort of demon of the night. You know.
Unfortunately, Isolated was cut off by Nash and Vayne, so there's no way for him to get there and help.
Yeah, you could say that he was isolated there, away from his AD carry. You could say that. You gonna say that?
I think so.
You're not gonna say that?
No, I don't like that one. That one's.
You won't stoop to my level.
Yeah.
Aw, I feel slightly insulted, but I kind of expected it. There's the flash behind from Nash. One more auto from Doc is all it takes, and the Vayne is on a killing spree 11 minutes in.
That's not a position you want to be in. A 3-in-1 Vayne at 11 minutes, and then it's gonna be first to brick as well.
I'm interested to see where Doc's item choices lead him. It looks like perhaps an Infinity Edge might be his first pickup here. The OBF sword is relatively versatile. As Nash and Brucey start off a dragon.
And I don't think this dragon is going to be contested. We do see that Alakai doesn't seem to even know what's happening.
And Alakai has had some moderate success with his ganks, though one of them just sort of came off of being in the right place at the right time and being able to help out Vegeta in the mid lane. Other than that, though, I think he's just not really had enough direction across the map. There have been lanes that really need his help, and he's spent an almost inordinate amount of time in the jungle. Jungle CS is a lot more deceptive than it used to be because a lot of the camps have more minions nowadays. The Krugs, of course, split into little babushka dolls of gold, and the Raptor camp now has additional minions as well. But even keeping that in mind, a 20 CS lead up over your opponent means quite a bit more time spent having quality time with those jungle camps. And I feel like on Vi in particular, he should have been exercising more of his ganking power earlier on.
We can definitely see that Nash has had a very large impact across the map. Mostly in bottom lane, of course. We can see that Doc being 3-in-1 and having actually rotated to top side, allowing Isolated and Chi to take the other turrets in bot.
Yeah, and overall, I'd say Clemson is not far behind in the least, really, but they've got a problem to worry about now in Doc's Vayne. They're on sort of a ticking time bomb. You know, the Vayne is eventually going to get nigh on uncontrollable. But looks like they're starting to try and control it. There's the tumble out of the final out for the Invisible guy is going to be shepherded forward on the back of the ball, pulling Brucey backwards. Vici will claim 1 kill. Doc is continuing to kite like the madman that he is, as Binary takes another bolt to the back. And Doc will make it out alive, but it's at the cost of his support's life.
Brucey saved Doc's life. The Monsoon was enough to keep Vici from getting him with that shockwave.
Oh, that's yeah, that's not going to work.
But it's like, no.
Oh, but maybe Roland, he finds Alakai. There's the Chaos Storm. One particular needs. Alakai gets himself a shield from his passive. Roland, though, kiting around on his gravity wall is going to keep Binary from bringing him any lower than the already dangerous life that he's sitting at. And he's going to find himself another kill there, hopping over that wall with the blast cone into a fortuitous position.
I guess Alakai was maybe buying. That was such a weird path because the blasting cone. Maybe he didn't expect it.
Yeah, he may have very well had the shop open and just wasn't expecting anyone to show up. But Isolated is walking through a meat grinder to get into this fight. Walking towards the Vayne is so very dangerous. But there's the shutdown from ADC Vici, who now has the Get Excited passive going. He flashes forward. He wants more resets, and he's going to find himself one. And he may indeed find himself another diving here under the turret onto Brucey. A few more auto attacks, but not enough damage. The John will escape, but the rest of his team fell to the wrath of the Jinx.
That is going to be them, Clemson catching up. They were actually a little behind, but that is going to put them at even gold, a little ahead because of this turret.
And we've been hyping the later game scaling of a Vayne, but we shouldn't discount Jinx's ability to scale into the later game as well. I'd say these AD carries are equally matched in some ways, at the very least, sort of comparing apples and oranges, as Vayne is much more of a duelist than she is a team fighter, but she can excel in that situation.
In an oriented team fight, I think that Jinx has a slight advantage just because of the rockets.
Her ability to spread damage out over a fight, yeah, is a little bit more well established than a Vayne's, I would say. But Doc will be unrivaled in his ability to 1v1 in the late game. I don't really think anyone who's going to be able to handle him solo. So it's going to be a well-played team fight that clinches this game for Clemson if they get the victory, whereas DGG is going to have to do their best to find some picks. Or perhaps just play a really well-peeled fight around the Vayne. They've got the tools for that for sure between Maokai, Lucin, and John.
Absolutely.
Shove up the mid lane for Clemson here. Victor's wave clear is difficult to push through that.
They managed to get a couple hits in there, but of course it is going to take a while. Binary going in, and then running away.
Yeah, some good damage onto Nash. There's the kick for Binary as well as Alakai comes over the wall. Monsoon burned a lot of ultimates down. There's another one. Alakai gonna be getting the stun there onto Nash, who then gets chain stunned against the wall, but he manages to flash his way to safety. Meanwhile, turret going down in the top lane though, as Doc is left uncontested, shoving up there. ADC Vici is playing a little bit dangerously here at the front of the fight. Manages to dodge away from pretty much all the CC thrown his way. Isolated, though, is just that off to the side of the fight. He flashes away from a vengeful Vayne who's looking for the kill, but he just about escapes with his life. And now Vayne is, you know, being that tanky old Maokai that we know and love.
Like, stop hitting me.
I'm not even sure that he's aware that they're hitting him at that point.
He is definitely on the durable side with that completed Sunfire Cape working towards another armor item.
Overall, though, that fight, if you can call it that, as it was really something of a very messy, spread-out skirmish, was favorable for the side of Devious GG, who had Doc up in the top lane, not only getting free farm, but also getting solo gold for a turret take. So that's even more gold into the main's pockets. Let's look at the gold values, actually, because he's just about 1,000 gold ahead of his counterpart now.
He has that section of working on that Infinity Edge, which of course is going to give him a nice little boost in damage where he can start one-shotting squishier targets like the Chi, or ADC the Chi.
The animation for the Krugs when they break into little Krugs is so adorable. I love how they just tumble into the air like snow on the wind. Carefree little creatures of rock and stone.
Only to be mercilessly... Darn you, English!
Such is the way of nature. We are here only to observe and record. We cannot interfere. As impartial shoutcasters that we are. Ocean Drake, though, is going down. Speaking of observing and recording. And this time, it's going to be going down for the side of Clemson, claiming their first dragon of the match. And I'd say they get the better half of the deal. Ocean is, I think, a little bit of a better pickup than a Cloud Drake.
I would have to agree, though. Who doesn't like going fast?
You gotta go fast. As my favorite furry hedgehog says. But it's a shove up the mid lane once again, as Clemson return to their old stomping grounds. Roland, though, has that wave that I talked about last time, but it looks like they don't really care anymore. They're going to just shield charge their way under that turret on the back of all of the shields that this Vi can get.
Vayne not quite checking the health of the turret before starting his teleport, and unfortunately that is going to go onto cooldown, and so he will continue to push that top side.
Henry is going to be more than capable of halting that push, though. Maokai's strengths do not really lie in split pushing. He's capable of it, but I wouldn't say he's top tier in that regard.
It's not the first character you think of when you hear split pushing?
No, not particularly. Speaking of split pushing, though, Doc is looking to grab some farm for himself, and it looked like both teams are ready and willing to give each other a little bit of breathing room and just take stock of what the next move might be here on the Rift, as most of the objectives that are easily taken are out of the picture, and now teams are going to have to start pushing a little harder if they want to garner anything for themselves.
Well, things have slowed up pretty significantly. We still have a very, very slight gold lead for Clemson, but it's nothing too huge. It's
And that like amount of gold has swung back and forth between the two teams multiple times over the last 10 minutes alone. But here's that 1v1 where Doc is going to excel. The first auto attack goes on to the minion wave, and the condemn doesn't land. Not the ideal way to play the matchup, as Doc burns the ulti and doesn't get too much for his efforts. He did lose about half his health, though. If he takes this 1v1, I don't think he can handle it. So there's Doc with the heal. He's flashing backwards. The exhaust comes down, though, and ADC Vici just about survives. Perhaps a little bit over-aggressive engaging that, but he pulled Doc back into the fight.
a little closer than he wanted it to be, but I imagine that at that point, ADC Vici is going to be like, well, I'll just take what I can get.
Yeah, true. And I mean, it was a good fight for him. I just imagine maybe a second later, and he might have been a little bit safer, a lot safer actually, as Karma would have been in range for the exhaust early on before the burst came down. But then maybe you don't have the kill, because then maybe Doc walks away, because he was in the process of leaving there. And ADC Vici playing that ambitiously is what got him to stay and try and go for the kill.
Absolutely. We're going to see that Isolated is just going to have them run away with that upgraded shield. They managed to get a few hits onto that turret.
And I think that's all they're going to be able to get anytime soon. These turrets are going to be very difficult to crack, even with the Vayne out of the picture. Vici's playing a little bit cheeky here, though. He's looking for a blue buff steal. He could be in some real trouble, though, if he doesn't play carefully. Gravity Well is placed a little bit too far away.
He's able to speed himself out of there without too much issue.
Yeah, still playing on the edge of glory.
Seeing a slight difference in build here, where we see Binary with the Spear Visage and Vayne with the Sunfire Cape.
Just searching for something to say as this fight goes on. Can you really even call it a fight? Oh man, Hammer Shock does some decent damage, I suppose. Oh, here's Nash. He's got real damage to bring to the fight, and Binary is afraid, so he's going to be trying his best to get out of there. He actually loses the Keeper's verdict, but here's Isolated. And this fight isn't going on so long, it's actually drawing both teams together like bees to honey. They're flocking to this and stinging each other with the nettling sharp spines. Alakai going to get interrupted again as he tries to go over the wall, but there's a two-man shockwave from Vici, and slowly now, the last members of both teams are filtering into the fight just as it ends, and nobody dies.
That was the most exciting thing ever, those first 30 seconds.
Oh man, it started out as your typical top laner 1v1, and it ended with no one dying, so I guess it ended as your typical top laner 1v1.
With guests.
With guests, yes, with audiences from both sides of the rift.
They were throwing popcorn and stuff at the fighters. And, like, give him a chair.
For all the damage it did, yeah. All right. Well, there is some damage now gained on the middle inner turret, or middle secondary turret, I should say, for Clemson. So I guess a little bit of a push for them, provided they make it out of here. All right. I'll bring that knock up on Tornado. And so in the end, they do get a small advantage, which maybe they can capitalize on later, that turret being wounded. Let's see actually how low it is. They only took off maybe a quarter of its health. So there's not really too much won or lost from either side, and we return once again to an unstable position on the ridge. Nash is looking for an engager into Binary. Doc's tumble gets denied. The knockback gets avoided. Nicely done by Nash. Binary has to flash away, but there's a ward hop to keep distance, and Doc is there chasing as well. That's a catch under the poppy. We'll see what they can do with that. Dragon is up very soon.
Binary, once again, positioning very aggressively, but unfortunately, there's not a whole lot he can do to face Doc 1v1, and that's without Nash's help.
And now Doc has a red buff for this fight as well. It's going to be a pretty big deal. Nicely done by Isolated. Steals away the crab. That's guaranteed vision for Clemson. They do have to think about Maokai, though. Vayne is continually pushing up top, and his teleport is back off cooldown at this point, so he could rejoin that. There's the teleport actually pulling in onto the fight right near Vici. ADC Vici, rather. As Vici himself has been flanked here by Roland Max, but he's able to take the 1v1, or at least it looks like it. At the start, he flashes in on roll for the ulti. He's on a rampage.
That was such a good play.
Some tricky footwork gets him the advantage there as Vayne is trying in vain to bring down Alakai, but he actually flashes over the wall as the rest of the team shows up. One kill traded over to Clemson at the cost of a dragon. Not really worth it in the end, but still some exciting play from Vici's Orianna.
Absolutely. It was I guess you could say it was worth it for Roland Max because he was able to lock up Vici for so long and it grabbed his ultimate.
Oh man, this is ambitious right here. They do take this pretty quickly with Minigun Jinx and even Poppy doing percentage damage with Hammer Shock. And Vi as well, if they're hit his percentage chunk, that's gone down incredibly low. But there's Nash over the wall. It gets secured by the Vi, and now Nash has nowhere left to run. He's going to be absolutely eliminated. Doc, though, gets exhausted, but that's not going to stop him. He gets the shutdown onto the Jinx, and now the 80 carries out of the picture. He hunts down the Orianna. There are no more carries left to bring down this Vayne, pardon me, a flash over the wall from Isolated. They're giving up with this fight, but Doc's gonna go down. Alakai has what it takes left in the tank to kill the Vayne. And Binary still has most of his health left, but here comes the Victor, looking for revenge.
Roll a max.
The fight's over.
That was such a ballsy play by Clemson.
They get the Baron, though. In the end, even losing that fight, it was only like a 3 for 2? A 2 for 2 in the end, actually.
It was pretty even.
It's fine. Yeah, it's a 2 for 2 trade.
If Roland Max had been there, it might have been a different story, but he wasn't there, so...
And I guess that's the true price of the 1v1. That's the true price of going down there for the Dragon. And in the battle of the advantages, Clemson comes out just slightly on top. Throws that into a Baron take and are now quite a bit on top.
We'll have to see if they can take advantage of that Baron. You see that ADC Vici is in that bot side. He was pushing it. And Doc is going to go ahead and push back. If Clemson can gather it up, they can probably take that mid lane turret pretty easily.
It looks like gathering up is the order of the day. However, ADC Vici is a little bit isolated down there. Like Grom kept taking his time. Nash finds Alakai. He's going to be kicking him back up against the wall there, trying to buy some time, but his team wasn't close enough to take advantage of the pick. And then buys enough time for ADC Vici to comfortably take that red.
Oh. Vayne versus Binary. Highlights of the match.
Oh man, far from it. That's not to say that Poppy and Maokai are bad champions by any means. Just the match between the two is not particularly interesting this late into the game. Nash, if he stays inside that circle, may be going down. Woo, that rocket was close too.
Nash thanking his lucky stars. He's on the squishier side of the spectrum without any health items.
Binary's a little bit caught off here. Vayne's going to be catapulted over the wall by the blast cone, though. But Vici doesn't really fancy his chances of cutting down the Maokai. And shove up the mid lane continues.
And I believe the turret is going to be going down at this point.
With Baron buff minions, that counters the Victor wave clear at the very least. The turret goes down, but then the fight gets engaged. Vayne is in the backlines looking to wreak havoc, but there's not much havoc as a lone tank. Meanwhile, however, Binary is getting melted by the Vayne on the other side. Doc is coming into this fight now full-fledged and ready to rumble. He's found Vici and he eliminates them in a moment. There's the Orianna ulti, though, pulling Doc back into his doom. And now Binary is looking for the flank. We'll see if he can re-engage this fight. The Tornado keeps him out of it, though. And the Death Ray chips his armor a bit and convinces him to walk out.
And Doc was able to eliminate Vici, ADC Vici, but the actual Vici and Alakai locked him up for several seconds.
There's two of them. You can't just take down one. However, that does really hinder their pushing power. So I don't know if they get this inhibitor turret, but they are trying, darn it. Oh man, Rolmax is gone. Nice
Rolmax not quite
Vici.
respecting the real Vici's damage.
That might be enough. Yeah, they've got the shields to tank this thing up.
Wow.
Oh my god, they've got the shields to tank this thing up.
Barry's like, whatever. Turret, who cares? That's just insane, the level of shields there. And that is going to be Clemson taking control. Not a huge advantage, but having that inhibitor turret down is going to be actually pretty significant later on, probably.
Yeah,
if TVSGG can't make a recovery here.
An inhibitor turret in a fight like this between these two kinds of compositions is a big deal because these comps are so at odds with one another. It's an engaged comp versus a disengaged comp, and it really just breaks incredibly hard in one way or another when it breaks, you know? Like, either the engaged team lands enough engaged to kill Doc, or they don't. And if Doc doesn't die, it doesn't really matter what his health total is. Once a few picks are down and Doc is still up, that team fight belongs to the Vayne. But if that isn't the case, if the Vayne gets eliminated immediately by some good focus or a well-placed ulti from Vici, then the opposite story is true and Jinx is allowed to run rampant.
Absolutely. Oh. Vayne showing Alakai a little bit of love. He's like, I want to give you a hug. But it turns out Alakai's not a tree hugger.
Hey, I see what you did there. That's pretty good.
Hey.
I got that one. Malachi in the tree.
We do see that the next dragon is going to be up in 20 seconds. We see Clemson positioning to take it without too much contention.
And it is an infernal drac. It's an infernal drac. So that's going to be a pretty big deal for either team comp since they both have these hyper carry AD carries that do so well with just more damage in the late game. They're just vessels for damage. That's all they are.
Vici is positioning the orb in a spot that's going to make it really awkward for them to get over that little lip.
And the Dragon's already down, but that doesn't stop the engage here from DGG. Or perhaps it does. No, Vayne coming to the back lines, but she is going to be kiting backwards. Binary's doing his best to tank it up as well, but it looks like Doc is just melting tanks a little bit better than ADC Vici can right now, as Vayne has to flash away. Neither team taking any casualties as the Dragon goes over to Clemson.
Clemson with the advantage, though we can definitely see the huge difference in the level of tankiness. Vayne is just nearly unstoppable while he has his ultimate active, and Binary unfortunately just can't stand the heat from Doc currently.
And something I mentioned much earlier on in the game was that I thought that maybe Alakai was allocating a little bit too much of his time to clearing the jungle. Wasn't in lanes as often as he maybe should be to keep up with Nash's pressure. But now as we get into the later game, you can really see the Vi start to shine as compared to the Lee Sin, because even though maybe Alakai didn't keep up with Nash's pressure the first 15-20 minutes of the game, now Nash is really struggling to find a pick anywhere, whereas Alakai, all he has to do is get in range of someone and press R on them, and that's a pick. It happens. Doesn't really take a lot of setup, you know?
Absolutely. Slight differences in the build. We see that Nash went for the Warrior Enchantment, and Alakai went for the Cinder Hulk, so he is going to be significantly more durable. Yeah,
and he's pretty much just a CC bot. He's there to make sure that his two carries, Vici and ADC Vici, are able to carry the day for him.
Using the Trinity Force to amplify his damage, probably going to end up being his only damage item.
Yeah, that's really all you need. Vi's base damage is strong, and Trinity Force provides a lot of synergy there, but they may be able to catch here into the Maokai. Depends on how quickly they can kill him. They're getting flanked along here. Particularly Isolated is in some trouble as the rest of his team is off above him. He has to flash away from this fight. The Orianna ulti only catching under one as ADC Vici is left alone here. He may very well go down. Nash gets the pick, and this is the beginning of disaster for Clemson. Doc, untouched, is going to be flashing after Vici, but he's on a killing spree as that burst is insane. That was Command Protect that killed the Vayne. People don't often consider that one, but if you're in the path of the ball, it does do a decent chunk of damage. We'll see if Nash can find himself a second pick here in the binary, though. Oh, Steadfast Presence was not up to prevent the Lee Sin from getting in. And another really messy fight. These teams come out relatively evenly.
Absolutely. That was a 4v4. One team missing their marksman, AD carry, and the other missing their jungler. The Doc must have been a little surprised.
Yeah, I think it looked really grim there for Clemson, but Vici was able to clutch that one, really, by catching Doc there. As if Doc had been able to run wild, the rest of that team fight was very much over. As ADC Vici made a critical error being caught off from the rest of the team at that moment, and the Shockwave only catching one was pretty big as well.
So to be fair, Vici basically melted Doc all by himself. That was just crazy how much damage he did. We'll probably end up seeing Doc build some kind of magic resist. Actually, that's what he did.
Alakai is a tough nut to crack here, but maybe Doc is able to do it. It's the Randuin's to slow them down, though, and Alakai is out of there just fine. That's a flash burn from Nash, as well as the Dragon's Rage. That's a relatively low cooldown. That's pretty much all the engage potential of the Lee Sin gone, though.
Nash is going to probably end up struggling a little bit. He does have the Dead Man's Plate, which will let him get the speed movement speed boost to help him engage a little bit better with like a ward or something.
I feel like they don't really they shouldn't be engaging as often, though. But the problem then is that Clemson seem intelligent enough to just hold back and wait for a mistake. You know, they aren't going to force the issue when there isn't an issue to be forced, and that really just weakens the Lee Sin, because it's very clunky for him to try and make an engage happen. Though possible, it does require quite a bit of good positioning. You really have to outplay your opponent to do it, unlike Alakai on Vi, who presses Q and presses R. And here's the Baron attempt. Whereas in a disengage situation, though, Dragon's Rage is great for keeping Doc alive, but they're just never disengaging. And that's one of the issues. They are always the ones forced to go in the aggressive here, as the back forcing them to come and fight this fight. They're not really in a position to do so. But we'll see if Nash can make the steal happen. This time he's dashing in. The smite is early from the Vi, and Nash secures it for his team. And now this is surely disaster for Clemson. But Doc is in some trouble. Hang on here. Let me get my bearings. My microphone actually swung out to the side. I'm sorry if you guys couldn't hear my voice there. It's a triple kill for the victor, though. And Clemson, they just roll over and die in that fight.
They have a little bit of a throw there. We do see that the goal is completely even now. Like, well, not anymore, it's turret. But that's pretty convincingly DBSGG's win. Alakai missing the Baron was just super unfortunate.
Is it their win overall? They can keep on pushing.
They can definitely take the inhibitor here without any issue.
They've got 7 seconds on isolated ACBG. I think it is just the inhibitor.
If they really wanted it, they could
Vayne
probably
was
force
looking
the
for
turret. But
yeah, it's just the inhibitor going down.
they're very wisely only taking the inhibitor and now positioning for a Baron. Not Baron, sorry, Dragon. It's like a Baron, but not a snake. It's not really a snake, is it?
Dragon's not a snake? I thought it was a snake. Is it a lizard? I guess it's a lizard. I think it's a dragon, actually, you know, on further consideration.
It might
I
be
imagine
a
it's a
dragon.
dragon. Yeah. I think that's the one I'm going to go with.
If it has wings, it might be a dragon or an eagle.
But it is an elder dragon, regardless of what speciation it adheres to. And it is also a pretty darn important point of contention between these teams. As Nash and Vayne bully some members of Clemson out of the jungle there, who have to go and deal with superminions in the mid lane for a little bit. Oh, Vici, ADC Vici, that is a little bit alone here. No, it's okay though. There wasn't vision on where he was alone. Had there been a ward directly on that red instead of just around the corner from it, ADC Vici might have been in some trouble taking that all by himself. Ooh, that's some burst.
And then blue buff was no more.
Yeah, I think Rolamax did just complete that death cap, so that's a pretty big spike for him. The Elder Drake is down below half health. Vayne absolutely melts this.
Just have that
Champion, not Vayne the player. Oh, that was a valiant attempt from Jinx right there over the wall, but it is secured by Victor, in fact. There's the ulti from Binary. That tosses Doc, or pardon me, not Doc, Roland Max out of the fight. Speaking of Doc, though, he's getting some work done, and he's tumbling forward to finish off Vici, who is a key and integral component of the team fight for Clemson, who are running away with their tails between their legs now, but I don't know how far they're going to be able to run. Isolated gets landed on by Nash as he comes in feet first for a kill. Vici loses half of his health to a tumble from Doc.
This could very well be the end of the game here.
Oh, this is GG if I've ever seen it. Binary goes down. It's a double kill for Roland Max.
That's a clean ace with Baron and Elder Drake. These turrets are not going to last long enough to be any significant barrier.
And it's a good game indeed between these two teams, as that was a well-fought match from both sides. It is going to be DGG who come out on top. Clemson will be actually knocked down as we are in the semifinals. It is only a best of one, and we will likely be heading into another semifinal match soon, but this was a 40-minute match, so the other semifinal may already be done. We may be heading into the finals next.
We'll have to see in just a moment. Give me a second, guys.
Give us just a few moments to work out exactly where we are in the standings, everybody, and we'll be right back for you.
find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right. It feels right. It feels right. Yeah, I can only say that it feels right. It feels right. It feels right. Yeah, I can only say that it feels right. This is just a must. Put me in perspective, I'm the deepest in the cut. Everybody tuning in, but this is just for us now. We know I ain't ballin' yet. Hoes wanna holler, oh no, I don't call them back. Girl, let me see you hold it down, we gon' have a blast. Cause I just wanna know what you gonna do with all of that. Ain't gotta say a word, I know what's up. You can have it all, watch me rip it off. I'll admit it, you got me feeling hella love. Even when it's going down, know that we gon' live it up. Young shot caller, always been a baller. Know that you the one, I can feel it in my heart. Yeah, I won't stop charging me, go and come harder. I can see you and I, way beyond the stars, girl. I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right. It feels right. It feels right. It feels right.
And we're back. We are into the finals. Right off the bat, it's going to be Devious GG facing off against Reverie Esports. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. They are a returning team, actually. They've been here before. Always happy to see returning teams.
Yeah, Rose Noir, I think it is.
Rose Noir?
As noir is the French for black.
Darn you French people.
So, je suis désolé. You don't know what I said. Ha!
Not a single clue.
But yeah, it is unless I'm just being pretentious. Rose Noir versus DGG, which stands for Devious GG, as I keep wanting to call them dangerous, not devious. Though I think they'd appreciate both. They seemed pretty dangerous last games. Segways. And the Vayne in particular is being banned away, as I think Doc and Brucey were kind of the core around which the team rallied. Roland Max had some pretty crazy burst on the Victor, but and Nash got a good pick here or there, while Vayne was a tank. Vayne the player, not Vayne the champion. Sorry for the confusion. But Doc's Vayne was a menace, and when dealt with appropriately, team fights were won by Clemson. When dealt with inappropriately, Clemson fell apart like so much wet tissue paper.
Absolutely. Binary could not withstand more than a few shots from Doc. It wasn't happening.
And one pretty permanent way to deal with it is to ban it out. So unsurprised to see the Van Bane. Jana as well. Yeah, Brucey had some pretty darn solid monsoons, and the laning phase was certainly good. Cassiopeia against Roland Max as well. I believe that was banned out in the last game for him as in addition to this one.
It is going to be a first pick, possibly, the Rise. Being played by, assuming it's going to be played by Shu Rima. That
last name on the side of Rose Noir, I don't know what that, they took their name and they moved it all the way to the right somehow. Is that Luke? Is that Fluke?
I think it's Fluke.
Oh, that's an F. I think that's the Italian symbol for currency and not an F for florins. I think that's the symbol for florins.
He's Luke in Italian money.
I
Italian.
guess. Yes. He's a very rich Italian man named Luke. Either that or it's Fluke, and he's just using the key to confuse people like me. Nash's Lee Sin had really good impact in the early game, so I actually quite like the pick. I just hope that it doesn't scale into the later game, even though they ended up victorious. Devious GG had some issues finding fights later on in the game, so against a team that's more able to deny them those fights or just navigate them when they do happen, which perhaps that's Rose Noir, I feel like Nash's Lee Sin is going to fall off hard in the late games. So picking it sort of consigns them to an earlier game plan.
Absolutely. If he plays like he did in the early game again, they shouldn't have too many issues, but unfortunately, like you said, he had some difficulties in the later portions of the game.
Mm-hmm. And I'm being informed that's not the symbol for Florins, like I thought it was. That is, in fact, the function symbol, and it's a mathematical symbol. So it's the function of Luke?
Yes.
What is Luke's function? What is what is anyone's function, really? That's the true question that he wants us to ask.
We're getting awfully philosophical in here.
Oh, awful at our philosophical discussions, indeed. Some awful levels of philosophy. That was pretty horrible. Poppy, though, is picked, and Nautilus, so that's a lot of tankiness.
So we're seeing the return of the top lane exciting match of Poppy versus Maokai.
Yeah, Vayne really has no reason to pick anything else here. The Maokai did just fine with the Poppy. A little bit of a choppy early game, but that's okay. Maokai doesn't really care about the early game very much, so he'll probably do just fine. And Braum, defensive support again from Brucey.
I'm kind of curious to see where the Nautilus is going to go. Probably support? Not sure. We saw a support Nautilus last weekend when you weren't here.
Support Poppy is also perfectly viable. So that could be what we're seeing here in top Nautilus. I think support Nautilus is more popular, but support Poppy is just fine. Especially with Courage of the Colossus, you get so much dueling power yourself. I have to admit my biases. I almost have Mastery level 7 on Poppy purely because I play her only as a support. So I am a little bit biased in that direction. But it's fine. It's a good pick, I promise. As Zach gets locked in, that is one hell of a tanky team.
They're interested in not dying.
Yeah, and even more than just tanky, that's one hell of a survivable team because Ryze builds a little bit off tank usually, and Ezreal is just incredibly slippery and hard to catch. Rose Noir are looking to play durable team fights.
I really
see why they banned Vayne.
Yeah, that's like we definitely can't play this comp if there's a Vayne, so they're gonna say no to that. And they're facing off against Caitlyn, who does have range, but is not known for her tank shredding such as a Vayne is.
Yeah, she can have issues with that, particularly in the mid game. Actually, as we go into the later game, Caitlyn scales decently well.
Yeah, that's what marksmen do, and marksmen do shred tanks in the late game when 6-item builds. But the mid game is going to be very interesting to see how Vayne or how it's dealt with from Doc, because obviously they're not quite where they need to be.
And if there's any composition, you can pick almost pure tank and like just, I don't know, a duration comp into, if you want to call it that. It is one with like a Lee Sin and a Maokai and, like a relatively lowish end game damage AD carry like a Caitlyn. She scales well, but she's no like Kog'Maw or Twitch or Vayne or Jinx or anything like that. So, maybe Devious GG are kind of kicking themselves a little bit over early picking the Caitlyn and not going with a Twitch or a Kog'Maw or a Jinx or one of those other scaling carries with Vayne out of the picture.
And we are into our delay. A nice bit of set of matchups, except for maybe the not so interesting top lane. We're actually seeing Vile taking Ghost on the Fazak, which is very interesting. Don't think I've ever actually seen that.
Yeah, I don't believe so either. We'll see how that works for him. I don't know. In later team fights, he does get the speed buff from Ghost while using his ulti, so to allow him position Let's Bounce really easily, I suppose, and that could be useful.
That is true.
Certainly an unorthodox choice, but I don't think it's a terrible one by any means.
I'm not saying Ghost is a bad spell or anything. It's just typically considered less flexible because you don't go over walls with it. But on that note, we are going to enter our commercial break, I think. We'll be back as soon as we're into the game, and we'll give you the finals of our little weekend tournament, and we'll be back. Here we are onto the Rift. Just give me a second to fix my scoreboard again, and we'll get started.
Boom, there we go. Fixed on my end as well. Probably beat you to it as well, effect. I'm sorry, I'm a very competitive person by nature. That's another thing they teach you down in the pits of play-by-play shoutcasting, the birthing hell from which we are.
Everything is a competition, always.
Born. Yes, everything, all the time. That's why you have to shout so much and so loudly. And that's why I can shout for hours on end without so much as a hoarse throat.
It's an excellent talent to have in this line of work.
I suppose it is. Oh man, I'm building this storyline a little bit too far out, and it's becoming clunky and about to break to pieces. But we do have a pretty standard line of scrimmage from both teams. In fact, a very standard line of scrimmage from both teams. They're matching each other almost beautifully mirrored across the rift there. And nothing too terribly interesting with the level 1, which disappoints me, but I'm sure does not disappoint the teams, as nothing risked and nothing lost. The corollary to nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, they definitely can't lose right away if they don't, if they avoid like a 0-5 wipe, which would be I don't think we've ever had one of those at Reverie. Just the usual picks and whatnot. If a 1v1 happens, or if a level 1 happens at all, which it's not particularly common.
It's a strategy that you don't often see people going for, as there's too many unknowns involved, and a lot of people are afraid of those unknowns. Shurima, though, getting bullied away from the lane there already by Roland Max, who started with a power transfer, a pretty powerful level 1 ability. It does have multiple components, and that's one of the things that sort of defines a powerful level 1 ability, where Roland Max can get that first damage off of the power transfer itself, he gets a shield, and he even gets secondary damage on his next auto, so he does have the advantage there against Shurima, as a hook lands from Fluke. Ooh. Some good damage on the dock, but it's not really going to stick.
Luke showing his function.
Yeah, I suppose. He is indeed. Oh, man. There's going to be way too many bad jokes to be made off of that name.
Well, we have a bunch of very entertaining names like Rofs and Shurima.
You've got a full best of 3 to experiment with them, so That's the true reason why we shoutcast. Doc, though, is still getting the push advantage here onto Roths and Fluke, as you may expect in the matchup.
His rafts weren't quite enough to dodge the Q from Caitlyn. Doc doing Caitlyn things.
Looking for those headshot trades as well. And that's really not a big deal, though, for Roths, as he continues to hold about even in farm. That's really all he needs to do. He's going to scale up and actually spike in the mid game once he gets an item or two, right where Caitlyn starts to fall off. So alongside the scaling of Rise, I think Rose Noir have set themselves up for a pretty reliable, favorable situation. I don't want to say victory, because they're still going to need to find opportunities as they move into the mid game, and all that is yet to be seen if they can do it or not. But they're setting themselves up for a favorable situation at the very least.
We're seeing a repeat of the previous match where there was a top lane gank by Nash starting right off the bat. It's happening again.
Yeah, he's going to be walking straight up to the Poppy this time around, as Shurima is getting some good damage here onto Max, playing around those cooldowns. Looked rather aggressive, but he knew that Victor had just burned everything, so he wanted to get the most out of the trade for himself.
He doesn't have much in the way of mana now, so he might consider... He's actually getting ganked by Brucey.
Whoa, Brucey roaming up out of the bottom lane is going to force Shurima back, but not really get much more than that for his trouble. That's a lot of trouble as well, going all the way up the lane there.
Absolutely. He looks like he's taking the long way back around to get back to his lane as well, which is wise because Vile was kind of hanging out down there.
They had spotted out the Zac, so they didn't know that he was there, but yeah, even just his presence being there denied Brucey even more XP, which in turn denies Doc farm and actually gives Roths a lead, when realistically he should be sitting behind in farm right now.
Seeing it Holy here and Vayne are going at it very slowly and gently. Vayne playing back safely.
And Holy didn't actually have to burn his flash. That's pretty critical when Nash came up to the lane. Vayne did a good job of getting the steadfast presence out of Holy early on. Oh, Fluke. The concussive blows are going to stack up, but he got his shield up right before they did, so that prevents quite a bit of damage. Gets a return shield as well. Oh my god. The amount of shielding you can get as Nautilus with Courage of the Colossus and, of course, Titan's Wrath, his own W, is pretty intense.
They've definitely... I feel like he's a little more closer to how his trailer version is now, and how tanky he is. I love the trailer version from him. He's just so badass.
Oh, is it the one where he's like hulking and coming out of the ocean or something? Am I recalling that video right? It's been a long time.
It's that cinematic... Oh, hello.
Oh, Shurima flashing away from Roland Max's. Here's Fluke, though, coming up from the bottom lane. And this support round in the mid lane is a good amount more successful. It's a first blood for the Nautilus. There's Rune Prison onto Shurima as Nash is desperately looking for line of, not exactly sight, but I suppose action onto the Rise here. But he got body blocked continually by Vile, who then smushes his dreams into the dirt.
And it's going to be RZB taking the lead. Rose Noir.
Rose Noir.
Rose Noir.
Yes.
Noir.
Like film noir, like the
Okay.
those old movies about the detectives who always talked about mysterious women coming into their offices at all hours of the night.
Yeah, it's a alrighty then. Rose Noir. Got it.
There you go.
I promise not to do it wrong for the next 5 minutes.
That's a promise, which I'm sure, I hope you can keep, as Shurima is going to be heading back to base for the first time here. We'll see what he picks up. Likely a tier. He's a Rise after all.
Seeing a bit of a change up from the previous game copy, Holy opting for the Cinder, Bambi Cinder after that, rather than going for the Spirit Visage. It is going to give him additional wave clear. Not a huge amount, but every little bit helps.
And a little bit of dueling power as well. I mean, the magic damage aura, as you said, every little bit helps. Particularly in the tank matchup. And I think the Sunfire Cape is a good pick, one way or another. Even if it's not the tankiest item to go into a Maokai, as he does primarily do magic damage, I think Holy will be just fine.
See, he's happily going to poke away at Vayne.
Taking some poke of his own, though, from those Arcane Smashes. But one way or another, the story will be long and protracted, regardless of who it is that ends up victorious at the end.
Love top lane.
Everybody loves top lane. Everybody.
I say this as a top lane main.
Ooh, that was a magnetic anchor there, landing onto Doc.
Function of...
Maybe he should uninstall those electromagnets from his gun. They seem to be attracting unwanted guests.
Just a hook out of nowhere. Nothing like getting anchored by a big man. That's exactly what Caitlyn
Those are
wants.
dangerous chickens. Those are dangerous chickens, Nash.
Oh my, Nash.
Oh, they're getting revenge! That doesn't get announced anymore, so Vile doesn't actually know that that went down, but we know. We all know. Nash, I'm so sorry, friend. That could have been averted, actually, if he had gone with the jungle item completion early instead of 2 longswords. Not that he could have predicted that that would happen, but hey, just gonna bring it up. Just gonna put that there.
Poor Nash. Not
Poor
quite.
Nash, indeed.
Not quite what he wanted.
Oh, man.
And that is going to further put him behind a little bit, as he does have to respawn.
As Holy continues to be bullied backwards. A small CS lead now building for Vayne. The thing about a... Ooh, another anchor almost magnetically connecting. Roland Max could be in some trouble. There's the CC chain for days in the mid lane, but looks like Roland Max made enough distance.
Was able to use the ghost to get away.
Shurima's flash is going to be up a little bit sooner than Roland Max's, but not by much. As there's the depth charge. Fluke is happy to take the fight here into Brucey, though, who's not so happy to be tanking all that damage. Rofs gets the snipe with the final Q. There's the heal as well to keep him alive through that last auto attack. Flashing now out of Caitlyn's range. Doc may have some more damage here on the Fluke, but I don't think he has the kill in the end. As Shurima standing inside that Chaos Storm seems to have purchased himself a Chaos Resistant Umbrella. He's not taking too much damage, but now with another 2 or 3 ticks, he could be in some trouble. Flash forward from Fluke, but the auto attack is interrupted as a flash away from Caitlyn puts Doc at range. And it's still an advantage here from Rose Noir, but there may be 1 kill now coming back as Holy knocks both Vayne and Nash up. There's the dash back against the wall. Vayne's going to go down, and Holy's still alive. He's got a shield on top of what little health he has remaining, and Nash has to dash his way out of a calamitous situation. Oh, he could be in real trouble here. Vile, all he has to do is just turn this corner and stick to this Lee Sin. Sometimes a harder task than it sounds. Here's Nash over the wall. He gets the kill with the auto attack just as Holy is ram jam while slamming him. But still an advantage for Rose Noir.
Absolutely. Holy was able to play that so well and lock up Vayne for just long enough for the turrets to kill him. That was very impressive.
He got a little greedy at the end there, though. I think he wanted to assist on that kill against Nash. And he really didn't have to stick around. Vile had that kill in the bag. But he was getting greedy. He walked towards the tri-bush, and so he had a good old drink of coconut juice for his troubles.
Channeling his inner binary.
But one way or another, he's still all right. And even that kill going down, he gets 2 kills of his own. So that more than equalizes the slight disadvantage he was at in the lane. In fact, he now has a 300 or 400 gold lead.
Absolutely. He's opted to buy that Spectral Cal to negate some of that magic damage because he was eating a lot of damage from those arcane smashes.
He should be just fine now, though. As part of the reason for that was Vayne was building into some early damage with the double door and start. But now Vayne is going for tanky options of his own. And as you said, there's some magic resist on Holy, so expect to see the damage fall off pretty sharply from here on out between the top laners.
Where the direct camera will still insist that we must see every tiny bit of action.
Action is a strong word. Though there was some action up top lane just a few moments ago. That dive was pretty intense. Holy did a great job of stalling out there. He realized he couldn't afford to charge up Keeper's Verdict all the way and push them back to safety, essentially. Oh, nice body block from Bruce. I have to get back to my point in a second.
Functionally, maybe not quite doing the function he wanted.
Oh, there's the leap in from Brucey. He lands the knock up onto Rafts. Here's Vayne from the side, and Rafts is dead meat. Let's see if they can hunt down the Titan of the Depths as well. There's a flash in from Nash. Not really much of a follow-up, though.
He unfortunately kicked away, not quite estimating how fast Shurima was moving with that ghost. He is very quick.
He's still had an opportunity to toss out his Q, though. When you're being kicked, you're going in a straight line, and you land and have like a quarter second where you're still in a straight line from where you were kicked. So, I don't know. I feel like Nash could have followed up on that, but he sort of split the difference between the two lines of play, you know? Very reasonably, he could have just not done anything there and taken the ghost and walked away, and that would have been fine. And very reasonably, he could have flashed forward and gone for the really aggressive play, but he kind of did both.
Well,
and
might be in trouble here.
Neither. Not too much trouble, though. As Brucey hops on in. Shurima flashes away. A flash now away from Colin Max as Vile looks to strike. Let's bounce as well, going to be popped, and Vile smushes another victim into the dirt of Summoner's Rift. Shurima, though, he turns back around with some burst of his own onto Doc, who overestimated himself. It's a triple kill potentially for Vile. Nash just about escapes with his life, but Brucey is caught out with by Fluke, and Vile's gonna get himself that triple.
That's some Vile gameplay.
Hey!
It was on the easy end of the spectrum.
You did it. You did. That was the easiest joke ever. That was bad puns on easy mode. Oh man. I do not wish to be associated with you any further. I'm turning my mic off. You're alone. You're done.
Oh, I'm doomed.
This is all you. No, I'm just kidding.
This will be pretty easy with Stays in top lane, though.
Yeah, pretty darn easy to play-by-play cast when there's not really much going on.
They're hitting buttons at each other.
Maelstroms there, though. Oh man, that building damage animation is so neat. I've never seen that one before.
That is awesome, actually.
It makes it look like legitimately a Maelstrom, but regardless of the neatness of his animation, Vayne still goes down. As Vile has been wreaking havoc across the Rift recently.
Absolutely. Vile is just disgusting right now with his level of play.
Okay, this is a little better. This is slightly better.
It's actually unintentional. I didn't think about it until I already said it.
Oh man. Alright, well, puns aside. Terrible, intentional, unintentional, whatever variety of pun it is.
We can definitely see that Reverie Esports have firm control of this game.
But they don't have firm control of this Dragon Pit, as Devious are stealing it away, true to their names. And Ocean Drake will be theirs. First Drake of the game. It's going to be a pretty big deal, actually. It'll help out quite a bit in some of these matchups. I'd say particularly in the bottom lane, where it has poke back and forth between Caitlyn and Ezreal.
And probably a little bit in the mid lane. We do see that Shurima and Rolamax are going at it quite a bit.
And admittedly, in this matchup, this 2v2, whenever a fight does start, it is a big explosive one with the hard engage from a Nautilus and the follow-up sort of hard CC and engage from a Braum.
Nope.
Hard engage, though. There's Doc. Brucey is going to just
such a good hook.
Take a quick bite out of that Ezreal ulti, but Doc is still coming down as Fluke managed to land another beautiful hook onto him. And Doc, just one more auto there. Oh, the shield is only up for so long, and Brucey not able to block that one out. Maybe not even able to prevent his own death. Fluke has taken some pretty powerful tower hits, though, and one more Maceal to deal with the heal from Ruffs. My poet, and I didn't even know it, is going to keep him alive.
Poor Dragon, unfortunately, is not going to make up for... It's not first brick, but it is another turret going over to RZB.
And they do have first brick.
That is true.
Indeed, they have every single turret taken so far, as Rose Noir are holding this game tight right now.
And we're just seeing that Vile is having just a huge impact across the map wherever he goes.
And Nash, I mean, that death to the Raptors kind of encapsulated this game for him. He's not really had too much of an impact, and he's just been struggling to find opportunities where he's not getting instantly countered by Vile's play. Vile has been... Admittedly, we haven't seen like a ton of really amazing proactive plays from this Zac, but he's just always where Nash is. He seems to have this instinct for where the Lee Sin's going to be. Whether that instinct is based off of vision control or off jungler instinct, it's working out pretty well.
Either way, it is going to put him at a convincing 5-0-5 lead with a 60 CS lead onto Nash.
And a Rift Herald take pretty late into the game, so that's going to be rather nice for whoever picks that up. Most likely Holy. But I could honestly even see that going to Vile.
He certainly is. Pretty much
such
everywhere.
an impact. But it's pretty darn swell in a laner. It's usually where you want it.
Opting to scare Dox off. Dox is like, take this.
Special delivery. Courtesy of the Piltover police force. One extra large bullet for the back of your skull, but it's really all Doc can do, sitting 0-2 now, and not having yet completed an item. We're moving into the Caitlyn mid-game where already he's going to be weak comparatively, but that is not going to stop him from some aggressive plays. Nice sidestep from Rob. Avoids quite a bit of danger there. There's the Ezreal ulti coming in as well. Brucey, having already burned his shield, is not going to be able to block that. And Doc takes a big chunk on the way out. Shurima will finish off the kill there for a killing spree. And holy pounds Braum into the dust. Vayne will try and take some sort of advantage as much as he can off the back of that teleport away.
Oh, here goes Vile.
Okay, he's not known for his tower pushing proficiency. Here's Vile over the wall now. Nash is going to get caught up on the turret, actually. He's very, very intelligent there from Nash not to drop that ult immediately. He didn't want to do any damage to Vile while he was still in turret range. But Vile has his sight set, pardon me, on different prey. Chasing down after Roland. Not going to find what he's looking for, though.
He doesn't quite have any magic resistance yet, so he actually took a decent chunk of damage. Oh, hello.
Oh, he finds Nash at the end, though. He got a pink ward. Nash, he knew he wasn't safe there. Oh, man. Perhaps a little bit tilted at this point. Nash taking an unsafe base. Well, he was a good distance away from the Zac, but Vile still had the tail end of Ghost running, and he's Zac. He can cut quite a bit of distance.
Definitely, if you're within basically a quarter of the map of Zac, you're at potential danger of getting ganked when he has that elastic slingshot maxed out.
All right. Well, a secondary turret goes down in the aftermath of that skirmish as well. So Rose Noir continue to tighten their grip around this game with 4 turrets to a pretty darn significant lead. And Baron and Dragon both respawning or spawning for the first time in the case of Baron quite soon.
Vile completing. Finally backed. Vile actually had not backed since that first set of kills in mid lane. He's finally backed. He picked up his completed jungle item. He completed Spear of Visage, and now he's got a 2-piece set for randomness. Well, and that is a significantly harder chunk of health than he had before.
Yeah, and that's going to scale into damage as well for him. A little bit, at the very least. And sustain as well with the Spear of Visage. My god, he's going to be an impossible front line to deal with. And this, that is the thing about a tank-focused composition. Once you get ahead with it, if you can, it just becomes oppressive as all hell. Oh, and Shurima has so much damage at this point. Doc is murdered in cold blood. And the chase may continue here, as top lane is interesting, apparently.
Officer down.
The chase continues with Vile going in for the 3-man let's bounce, and the majority of Devious GG seems at least unwillingly to want to bounce along.
We have reached the 20-minute mark, and it looks like we're going to have our first inhibitor turret.
Oh, first inhibitor likely as well, as this turret incredibly quickly, and there's still death timers on 4 out of 5 members of Devious GG. Rose Noir are looking in prime form here in game 1. Oh, does the inhibitor go down? The inhibitor goes down, okay.
At this point, I would safely say that Devious GG's only hope is a meteor.
We've talked... Always back to the meteor. We've talked about Vile being ahead quite a bit. But you gotta look across the rest of the comp here, too. We just saw Doc get absolutely just erased from the rift by Shurima, who's 5-0-8 and has a nearly fully stacked Rod of Ages at 21 minutes. And it's a pretty force mana completed. The 2 just absolutely gorgeous core items for an Ezreal. Like, those are the things that you drool over as an Ezreal at 20 minutes. And compositionally, Devious GG, even if they were ahead, would start to worry at this point. And maybe not this point on the clock, but like this item break point. Once the enemy starts getting these 2 or 3 core items, because compositionally, their Caitlyn and their Lee Sin aren't set up so great to deal with the mid game, where the enemy team's going to be spiking. But to deal with the mid game where the enemy team's going to be spiking, that's coming in at the 20-minute mark is even more absurd and difficult to deal with.
Vayne in trouble.
I don't really think there's any way out of this one for the map guy.
Yeah, this tank item, unfortunately, he's going to be firewood there.
Another good hook from Fluke. That's just going to take a little bit of damage, though. And that may
function.
With, oh, man. Please! I'm trying so hard to refrain from these, and you're just You're like,
Oh.
it's like you're sitting in the middle of an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, big old bottle of vodka, just waving it in people's faces. It's cruel. Oh, there's the realm orb, only taken to the back line of this dock, smashed against a wall is not going to last long in that sort of situation. And Nash, the last man standing, does not stand for very long. This is Rose Noir with a convincing game 1.
Man, they completely crushed it. Started off there even for the first few minutes, but it scaled so hard out of control.
Vayne trying in vain to clean up a kill at the end there. And that's got to plant the seeds of doubt in Devious GG's minds, as they had 13 times less kills than their opponents this game.
It's definitely fairly one-sided. Hopefully they can go into the next game with a fresh set. And we'll have to see if what happens for game 2.
And I feel like they need to have some sort of answer to a tank composition, or draft a little bit more carefully around a tank composition. You know, maybe save the AD carry pick until later on, because that was a really, really huge issue for them. Even like if they hadn't fallen that far behind, I feel like they just wouldn't have had an answer compositionally in the mid game, and that's why they just sort of stopped existing once mid lane came around. I mean, mid game came around.
Absolutely, it was so hard, even without, say, Vile having just picked up a bunch of easy kills in mid from counter ganking, they still would have struggled without a huge lead against that kind of composition. So they need to maybe save the ADC for a little bit later into the pick phase. Maybe we'll have to see how they change it up though, because we are going to be going to a game 2, and we'll be taking a small, tiny break. So don't go anywhere, guys.
I see the light inside you.
And we're back. Sorry for the delay. This is the second round of the finals. We have DVSGG facing off against Reverie Esports. Reverie, of course, taking the first game super convincingly and very quickly.
Some respect to Vile now with the Zac and Rek'Sai ban. So 2 jungle bans already on the side of DVSGG. While Rose Noir are thinking, broke, why fix it? And going with a first ban on the Vayne again. And I think that's wise. Doc, even while behind, still played to his teeth, I guess would be the phrase. He was always playing very aggressively, always taking a stance where he would be trying to make the most out of a situation, even if he was caught in a bad situation. And that's the sort of player that you don't want to give a comfortable champion to.
And they're taking their time on their next ban. The other ban, is, of course, is going to be Rise. Actually, it's Rose Noir Esports banning out their own Rise, which is, I guess, a respect again ban for Roland.
And they don't want it picked away for one reason or another. I think Rise was early picked last time around. That may very well have been their first pick on blue side. I don't recall 100%.
I believe it was, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. So they may want to go with more tanky frontliners again. And they're just getting rid of some of these end game tank melting champions like Rise. They're pushing Vayne off Maokai.
Okay, so we'll get to see Vayne play something different. It'll be interesting to see what else he plays, because he did a decent job last game. It's not like he did poorly, but it's just when your team is that far behind, it doesn't matter how well you really played.
When they first pick Hecarim, you almost have to take away the Karma. So we're going to see whether or not Rose Noir go with that. They want the Poppy. They want the Nautilus. Okay, so there's Karma still on the table here. No, this is not as well liked as it used to be. The sort of Hecarim spear charge composition where you have the Karma, maybe even the Sivir to back him up. You just charge a Hecarim into their team. Hecarim doesn't trample over team fights as easily as he used to, but he's still quite potent, and Karma is still a wonderful pick as a support. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that grabbed here, but I suppose it isn't guaranteed.
It'd be interesting to see where they go with it. They're opting to hover on the Shen, so that would make... It's almost already certainly a jungle Hecarim, but you never know. Could maybe see the return of top lane Horsey, but I just don't think it's currently likely.
Without the interaction between mobility boots and the way that works anymore, and more importantly, home guard mobility boots and teleport, being able to buy the home guard really early. One of the reasons Shen was really strong was because of its potential for influencing bottom lane by getting home guards really, really early for relatively little investment, and then teleport ganking bottom lane with home guards mobility boots, just rushing into the lane and basically being unavoidable.
It's actually really entertaining.
That's why you don't see it too often anymore, because of course you don't get home guards until 20 minutes, and I don't think it even interacts with teleporting.
I don't think it does. I believe they have opted to patch that out, which, while unfortunate for people who like that strategy, does make sense to me, at least.
Caitlyn for Rafts would be a reversal here. Stock was the one to grab that last time around. I don't actually know if I like the Caitlyn on a team with as much tankiness as they've fielded in the past. I don't know if Caitlyn can shoulder that much damaging burden all by herself, but we'll see.
It'll be interesting to see what Shurima goes for his mid lane pick. Because
or even Vile.
Is banned out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a Syndra.
Yes, Syndra made it off the ban list this game. She hasn't the last few. And LeBlanc, which was the counter for about a patch and a half to the Syndra pick, is no longer very popular, as her wave clear in particular was nerfed pretty hard in the last patch.
Oh, this is worth noting. The Cassiopeia was left open this time. It's been banned every match that we've spectated so far. Always against Roll Max, so maybe he is going to be playing this, it looks like.
It's a very, very strong pick against tanks. It allows you to shred through them. So if we do see Vile go with another tank pick, that would be a valuable champion to have. And they've got Peel for it. They've got a Shen and a Janna, so that's enough to pick a hyper carry, like the Cassiopeia particularly, if they go with a really kiting-centric AD carry for Doc here with Ezreal.
And there's the role reversal.
All right, well, we'll see how Rafts handles this. Please.
As much as I would be entertained by that, I seriously doubt that is what you're doing.
I sincerely doubt it as well.
You can't fool me. I'm watching you.
For those of you unaware, both me and Effect are, I don't know, enthusiasts of Aatrox. I've had Mastery 7 on the champion for more than a season now.
I unfortunately do
I've
not have Mastery
switched to
7. I haven't played enough to get Mastery 7 on anything, so...
I'm approaching the 5 to 600,000 master. I don't play League as often as I'd like to anymore. Quite busy
I've been unfortunately very busy
talking
lately.
about it. But whenever I do get the chance, it is usually an Aatrox game. But it's going to be Olaf. So less tanky, of course, than the Zac, but still something of a juggernaut in the jungle. And we'll see how Vile performs on this one up against Nash's Hecarim. Nash as well going out of his comfort zone, or the comfort zone we've seen this tournament at the very least, and opting for a champion not named Lee Sin.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit switch up on the usual style. They're not particularly similar characters, so it'll be interesting to see how well he plays the Hecarim over the Lee Sin.
Yeah, lots of changes have been made for both compositions, I'd say here. But we've got the spectator delay to get through before we can see how they play out on the Rift. Whether or not Rose Noir is going to have another come the finals in a 2-0 sweep, or whether Devious GG will start the long and arduous road back to a reverse sweep, which is their only option left in this best of 3.
And on that note, we are going to take a tiny commercial music break, and we'll be back as soon as we hit the game, so don't go anywhere, folks. And here we are. And potentially, depending on how well we see DVSGG play, this could potentially be the last match of the evening. We'll have to see if they can make a recovery reverse sweep.
Yeah, it really is the only option left for them if they don't want to be going home today. Rosenor put up a very good case for themselves in that first game. That was quite a showing.
Absolutely, and that was just super convincing. They took control within 10 minutes, and they just continued to never let go of the reins.
However, I would say that compositionally, at least, DVS is in a much better spot this time around, as they... God dang, Brucey, every time he gets that Janna, he spams those animations, and it just pulls me straight out of whatever point I make. But one way or another, I think compositionally they're in a much better spot here on the side of DVS. But that wasn't their only issue. They were simply losing mechanically almost across the board, except for maybe in top lane. They'll have to recover from that pretty considerably if they want to take this home. Especially if they want to do it twice in a row to take home the finals. Pretty standard starts from both junglers. No, pretty standard starts from both teams again. So no one's going for a level 1. Disappoints me slightly, but I can understand it for sure.
I can definitely get the reasoning, though. A little more on the boring side. Definitely I can understand it coming out of the side of DVSGG. They need to win this game if they want to even have a chance of, getting the free ticket to our buy-in tournament at the end of the month.
And that is the prize for winning one of our weekendly, that's not a word, weekly weekend tournaments, the opens, if you will. You do get a free slot in our buy-in tournament, which then has a cash prize. So it's sort of a stepping stone towards big money.
Doc is just taking a ton of poke there.
Big damage. And we'll see whether or not Rafts is able to play this matchup out a little bit more oppressively than Doc was able to, as due to some early roaming from Bruzy, as well as just Doc not playing perhaps as far to the hilt as he could have in the lane. Rafts was able to survive the lane really quite well on Ezreal last game, but it looks like Doc is not being given the same sort of breathing room.
Absolutely. And Director Cameron once again really loves, that's, see Bang going in on Holy a little bit there.
Yeah, and this is the time in the game where the top lane is the most interesting. They haven't built up into those tanky items yet, and they can duel one another down to respectively low amounts of hit points, particularly because both junglers are going to be ending their clear up here on the top side, and about the same time as well. So expect this fight to get a little more explosive.
Makes another return to the top side, because both the games we've seen, he ganked top first immediately.
Yeah. And Vile may very well be on the same page as him this time around. As the hook flies out from Fluke a little bit far to the left, but Doc is still going to take a headshot. And
I almost made another functional Fluke joke. But I refrained for your sake.
You are only allowed a certain number of those per game. Try not to burn them too early. Don't spend them all in one.
Okay.
Here comes Nash to the top lane, though. Here comes Vile as well, and they sort of pass like two top laners in the night, I guess.
Well, gets one hit off, like, that'll show you.
Nash came running into the lane and then thought better of the gank almost immediately as Vile showed his face and, more importantly, showed his axes, which are quite big and dangerous. Oh, that Fluke puts him under the turret, but put Doc in a world of pain. Wow. Rafts almost landing on the net.
That net
would have been a kill, but still pulls the heel. And Fluke, being the tanky menace that he is, walks out of the turret just fine.
See that Luke is functioning just fine.
Oh, no. No.
All
right, rolling Max, though. We haven't talked too much about this mid lane. Oh, nice trade from Shurima, actually. Procking the Thunderlord as well in that final auto. Oh, he's got some great damage on the rolling Max here. He may very well have this fight. He's popping the Ghost. He's chasing in further. There's one more unleashed power, but Shurima is not willing to chase any further into that fight, and both mid laners back out. One summoner burned to peace.
Definitely.
Oh, Shurima did just get a level, though. But there's a Hecarim coursing into this lane, and Nash forces the flash. And Shurima gets himself to the safety of his turret.
That is what Nash needs. He didn't have much luck in the first game, but popping a flash this early is going to help out a lot. We did see how aggressive Shurima was there.
There is potential for Vile to show up in the mid lane as well, though, sometime soon. Or perhaps towards the bottom side of the map. As Ward is spotted out there with the Scryer's Bloom. That does give some information as well back to the side of Devious, though, as the only potential team member to pop that Scryer's Bloom is Vile. So they know now that Olaf is on the bottom side of the jungle. It is something of a trade-off, I suppose.
Currently, Holy has a pretty big advantage in this top side, both in CS and in health.
Yeah, I'd say so. Poppy generally does decently well into tanks in the lane. The smash, I always forget the name of that ability, Hammer Shock, to do some good percentage damage in trades, as well as pretty reliable CC. It's going to mean that Holy, does get the early level 6. But once Vayne hits 6, which he did just now, there's potential for cross-map pressure in the Shen pick, and that will be his saving grace if he's able to make it work.
We'll have to see if he gets the opportunity. As long as they're paying attention, there's definitely going to be some possibilities if Fluke does that again.
Oh, man. Fluke landing another anchor, pulling Doc back into the fight. However, on Ezreal, Doc is able to shift back out, and I think that might be part of the reason for this really much more defensive and safe AD carry pick from Doc, who's historically in this tournament played Vayne and Caitlyn and other such high damage aggressive AD carries. The Caitlyn, I suppose, is relatively defensive. As these hooks have just been so very on point from Fluke in the laning phase. Playing Ezreal gives him the safety that he needs to survive those.
Absolutely. He's definitely doing a very good job. There's the Shadow Dash.
Yeah, this one landing into Holy. Holy going to be stunning Vayne up against the wall. However, the Spirit Refuge did block an auto attack or two, so the trade's about even. And Vayne's going to get his footing in this lane. Managed to find time to base and return with some items.
They both have their Bammy Cinder now, so that is going to give them some wave clear. Holy still has more because of, Hammer Shock is AoE, but yeah, Shen's always need the most.
Good stun onto Roland Max. There's some burst hiding behind that Syndra. But not willing to pull the trigger on it yet. Shurima's just going to take a trade. That is always the danger in the Cassiopeia versus Syndra, or versus really any burst mage matchup. If Shurima's able to get the burst down early on, all the consistent damage in the world to save you when you don't have a health bar anymore. Ooh, Shadow Dash not landing.
That's the best CC.
Holy doesn't quite land the stun either. Both top lanes will back away.
It's worth noting that Roland has opted to go for the Negatron Cloak, basically as his second buy, and that is going to help a lot in preventing his death.
Oh, Nash just out of range for his ulti landing.
That was really
as Fluke
close.
Continues the chase forward, landing the snare now onto Doc, and so very much damage. Doc not respecting at all the Nautilus Caitlyn damage output, but he does get himself a shield, he does get himself a heal, and it looks like he'll be just about surviving. We'll see if they can turn anything around on the bottom side. No, Holy interrupts the Stand United, but Fluke tosses out an anchor that point blanks a minion. Fight breaks off. First blood still on the table.
Vayne
Max
having a
back.
huge impact, able to save Doc's life from the Nautilus auto attack.
Fluke is still playing aggressively, though, as here's Vile in the mid lane. This may be first blood, as Roland Max is desperately ghosting away towards the top side. He's avoided one, he's avoided two axes. He's flashing over onto Shurima. Great damage down in its first. The hacker him. Nash coming in for an opportunistic kill, and now Vile's going to be hunted down into his own jungle. It's a double kill for the horse. Vayne, though, could be in some real trouble here as he can't Shadow Dash away inside the Poppy Ring of Denial. And TF Holy is going to be dashing in, flashing forwards, and getting himself a kill back for Rose Noir. Nash, though, is topside, and he's got plenty of mana, health, and buffs left to work with. And I think he's going to be able to hunt down this Poppy as well. And this is a beautiful start for Nash.
Nash having a complete reversal from the previous game and getting his revenge on the Vile full-fold.
Playing so far up might get punished for this. Monsoon is going to keep Bruce alive. Roland Max, though, is almost out of mana here. I think Fluke gets to walk away just because of that. As Rafts comes in for a little bit of extra damage onto the Gianna.
Yeah, looks like he's going to escape with his...
Oh, man, look at Doc, though.
Doc is not having the easiest time in the world.
Ace in the hole is up. I don't know. Rafts maybe had an opportunity there, where he could have at least taken a flash off Brucey to block the ace in the hole. But then again, he might have been in range to be interrupted by the tornado, so takes a safer play.
Oh, wow. Doc is like, just stop. Leave me alone.
Doc really needs to respect Raps a little bit more, I think.
While he is basing, they are going to go ahead and push this wave up, deny him some more CS.
And there's a huge amount of gold now for Nash, whose responsibility is kind of to win this game now for his team, as even with the 3-1 kill lead, we're still seeing Rose Noir only behind 200 gold. That's how well they've played out so many of these lanes. Like, the only lane where they're down CS is mid lane, and admittedly it is a pretty good amount, but Shurima's still going to be able to one-shot people. He's not that far behind that he can't at least serve that role, as well as get long-range picks and stuns and such. So I really feel like it's going to be up to Nash and to some degree Roland Max to take this game to the next step for DGG.
I definitely agree to that notion. We see that Nash is opting to rush down that Trinity Force. That'll give him a huge power spike and allow him to basically evaporate him when he hits. Maybe
Here's Vile on the top side, though.
We do see that Vayne has been really aggressive with his Shadow Dashes, so maybe they're waiting to see if he would do such a thing. But there was a ward there, I think? No, that's...
No, that's a Rose Noir ward.
Yeah. I forgot because they switched sides. That obviously makes sense.
Oh, there's a stun on Roland Max, and that may very well be a dead Cassiopeia, but Shurima turns and faces the ultimate, landing the stun from Roland Max. Vile is here, and Vayne channeling that ult. Easy prey. TF. X-Holy, pardon me. Full name. As here's the potential engage from Fluke, as he looks to turn the corner for a hook, but does not find it. Still, though. Titan's Wrath keeps him plenty healthy.
I did see that Vayne once again getting interrupted out of his ultimate, but I do think that even with that ultimate, I think that Vile being there was enough to secure Roland Max's death.
And Nash is hanging out in the mid lane, and
he realized he can't quite take him, I think.
Yeah, he was there to try and help out Roland Max earlier on, but again, Nash seems to be playing a little bit too reactively, a little bit too behind on his plays, I guess. And one way or another, even 3-0, he's not made too much happen, but admittedly it's not been too terribly long since he got that lead. So we'll give him a few more minutes. But with each passing minute, the onus becomes more and more on him to take that lead and turn it into something more.
I'm definitely interested to see what he does here. He's going ahead and back. Imagine buy some more pieces.
Could probably complete Trinity Force. Let's see how much gold he's got. Oh, he's only sitting on 18 gold. That's unfortunate. I feel like it might have been actually a little better to wait for, what is it, a 300 gold to complete Trinity Force?
Maybe, I don't know.
Now he's going to have an awkward time basing again. He doesn't have the completion.
Roland Max taking a lot of damage there.
Ocean Drake is available. There's a teleport now from Vayne. Still, though, on Shen, he does have the ability to come into team another. Raph's trying to 90 caliber net backwards, is going to get interrupted, and he's pretty much forfeit here. He's going to buy as much time as he possibly can for that coming in, as Vile flanks from the side. Doc, stunned up against the wall, is going to go down. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Looked a little bit disastrous at the start for Rose Noir, but they're all right. As Vayne continues to shove up the top lane, however.
Yeah, Luke was able to prevent Doc from going anywhere.
Oh, it's a stun on Roland Max, and that is a not quite dead Cassiopeia, actually.
Close.
The damage is not there yet from Shurima.
That is going to force Roland Max back to base, though.
That's
so
Dragon. No. Most likely, that's Dragon. It's Olaf and Nautilus taking it on. Let's swap down there. I know the top lane's very interesting, directed camera, but let's swap down to this Dragon, which may or may not be stolen soon.
The camera's like, this turret is so important. You guys have no idea.
It would be first brick if the turret went down. So it's about even for the Ocean Drake, I'd say. Maybe actually a little bit beneficial for Devious, but Vayne is in no real position to push turrets very quickly. That's Shen, and so only gets about half the health.
Fortunately, Sunfire Cape does not damage turrets, so it does not affect his ability to quickly take it down.
They are moving into a point in the game, however, on the side of Devious, that is, where they're going to have some pretty powerful spikes. Particularly with Ezreal, who's now completed one item and is going to start working on the second. 2 items is really where Ezreal shines. And in contrast to that, Raph's on Caitlyn is going to have something of a trough. I mean, I mentioned it last game with this same matchup going the other way. And I feel like Rose Noir is a little bit better set up to deal with it, but it's still going to be an issue that they'll have to deal with one way or another.
Absolutely. What do you see? I'm curious to see if Doc goes for the Iceborne Gauntlet route or goes for the Trinity Force, such as that Rafts did. Rafts.
I feel like either would be viable here, but the Trinity Force would allow him to shred through the tanks a little bit more easily, so I think that makes the most sense, but you definitely could make an argument for Iceborne. Meanwhile, though, we have Nash coming to the bottom side. Rafts going to be saving his 90 caliber net until all the CC is burnt. Doesn't want that to get interrupted again. There's a fight in the mid lane going on as well, but Nash is diving under the turret. He's going to get caught up there by the Nautilus, and Shurima gets himself a solo. Topside, Vayne is getting dove here by Holy as there's action all over the board. Holy happily tanking that turret up as Vile comes in to help him claim a kill. The turret push continues on bottom lane, and Fluke is just impossible to dive on this Nautilus. He has an infinite hit point, an infinite health pool, it seems. As he's going to buy enough time for the first break to go down for Rose Noir. Oh, man. Like, it didn't seem really like Fluke was doing that much on Nautilus there, but he was cleaning out what remained of that shattered minion wave and just surviving under that turret. Now you see him backing off a bit more willing to give this up, because he knew that his team had a shove going topside, and that first brick is so very important. So they get that first brick gold, partially because Fluke denied about a half a minion wave worth of kills, minion kills there.
Absolutely. I think we didn't really get a chance to see it, but I think Fluke was in position to basically deny Ras dying once again to Nash, because once Nash's ultimate's down, he can be CC'd.
Mm-hmm.
Ras barely escaping with his life.
Doc? Oh, no. Maybe Doc had the shop open. I think he's safe here, though. He can just shift over the wall. He's actually going to get some damage onto Fluke. Okay, he's okay. He's all right. A little bit of quiet there, but we're okay. Doc is going to shift over the wall in base.
Waiting for his arcane shift to come on. Hello.
Oh, Nash is looking to force the issue once again. You can tell that he knows he's in this powerful position. He wants to make something happen. But Rose Noir has done a good job of playing around it so far.
Both of these characters
While
do have
Holy
that
continues to
Sapphire.
threaten. Fights is slowly going in favor of the Poppy.
He does have there's a pretty big difference in items there.
There's a shove in the bottom lane now as Rose Noir looks to claim their third outer turret. Ezreal is not going to be enough to clean this up, I don't think.
Vile will happily take one turret. Oh, here comes Nash again.
Oh man, but Nash charges over a trap. That's a free headshot for Rafts. It looks like he'll be safe, but oh no, that's so much power wasted. As Nash is sort of the linchpin of his team right now. His ult being down is a huge deal, as that's a big opening for the next few minutes for them to shove, maybe get a good favorable team fight, get a few turrets, because now they're falling behind in turrets, which means they're falling behind in global gold. Rose Noir still have a much more composed sort of grip on this game than I would say DGG do, even if it doesn't look like as much of a stomp as the first game was.
Absolutely. Nash is able to get the 3-kill lead, but he really hasn't been able to do much with it. You got the one assist in bot lane, but beyond that, nothing's really happened.
Yeah. And on top of that, Roland Nash has been like, Roland Max at points. I just combined them. Roland Max at points has been looking like he's in a position to scale up and become a huge threat, but Rose Noir has done one thing pretty well this game for the most part. I'm not going to say they've done it perfectly by any means, but they've done a good job of recognizing where their opponents are going to try and make a move and being there in time to counter it, or recognizing who's a threat on DGG and being around to deal with that threat.
You glossed over it because the direct cameras everywhere, but Shurima is able to finally melt Roland Max.
Yes, we did see that once. That may be partially down to the fact that he's finished off his first big ticket item in the form of the Ludens.
Ludens is definitely the burstiest of burst items.
Oh, Rift Herald's no longer with us. You know, it used to say Rift Herald has killed Rift Herald, which was way more depressing.
That is just so sad.
Yeah, just incredibly depressing. Speaking of item choices, by the way, Holy, it seems, wholly committed to his split pushing strat. And he's gone with the ZZ route portal. That's going to force Vayne's attention top lane as often as possible.
Vayne has not opted to go for it. He's got a giant spell, so... And it's going to give a bit of an advantage to Holy for keeping pressure on that lane. It's going to force
Dragon
Vayne
is
to walk
back with
the...
us quite soon. It's another Ocean Drake. That would actually be really nice for a Caitlyn team. Allows them to make some sort of long, extended siege plays. And it looks like it's going to be going over to the Caitlyn team. Rose Noir uncontested in the Dragon Pit. All right, goes down.
There goes the poor drop portal.
And it took so very long for Vayne to shove up that lane with the ZZ Rot portal in it that he's not even able to get any significant turret damage down while the rest of the team is on the bottom side of the map.
It is worth noting that
Shurima is playing with fire here, but this is a flash hook over the wall from Fluke, and Doc is eliminated. Meanwhile, though, they're giving up position on their own AD carry. Rafts just about survives, and Fluke is forfeit. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but I'd still say the tempo is in favor of Rose Noir, as Holy is now shoving Vayne back out of the lane once again, having arrived to claim dominance of the top side of the map.
That was such an amazing play from Fluke. He flashed the wall, got the hook, and Shurima just followed up and dumped everything onto him.
You can see why the guy favors support Nautilus. He seems to be pretty fair on it.
Absolutely. Vayne's Shen Shield was so close to keeping him alive, but then one last auto attack from Fluke finishing the job.
Mm-hmm. And on top of that, even like the healing reduction cutting in from Shurima, because I'm pretty sure heal was burned there from Doc. Just glancing at the cooldown, it seems about right. Though perhaps I'm incorrect there, but it seems like that's the only time he would have used it recently.
That's pretty much has to be it, yeah.
He died so quickly it's hard to even tell. But if that is the case, then even that factor of the heal reduction from the Merlinomicon mattered.
It's just kind of such a surprise, because Fluke's like, you know what, flash from the wall, gonna kill him.
Yeah. I really thought that Shurima was playing a little bit too aggressively there, but yeah, I guess he wasn't even playing the most aggressively. It was, in fact, Fluke who was the aggressive one.
Absolutely. Fluke's like, I have all this team's aggression, I'm going to use it.
But the slow, continual pressure continues here from Rose Noir and continues across almost the entirety of the map.
Holy once again getting that drop portal down, going to go ahead and back. Vayne is opting for the Randuins, which of course is not a bad item, but it's not going to help him reduce this push.
It's going to be helpful against Rafts in team fights in particular, because Caitlyn does build pretty crit focused. Very decently valuable for him there, but yeah, it is interesting going for.
You can just see the difference in Global Gold is making here. So you see that Holy is working on his third item now.
Oh, Nash trying to make an engage happen. Thankfully didn't burn Ghost there, it was just the Stampede. Takes a big chunk of damage for his efforts though. Only now building into some tanky items. And I can't blame him. I mean, he got 3-0 early on with a triple kill and picked up the Trinity Force. That's what you want to do. You want to buy those damage items early and snowball. But he just never found an opening to do so, because Rose Noir, they played around it really well. It was like a game of hot potato, and none of them held the potato for very long.
Oh. Fluke's doing some intimidation with that anchor.
This is a really early use of the Redemption there from Brucey. It's a pretty important cooldown, actually. The red buff's going to get stolen away. And yeah, Rose Noir continued to choke out Vision. And now Holy is being left to his own devices up there. Did that get stolen away? Did Doc get that?
No.
No, that's Vile.
It was close, but not quite.
It was very close. But I think Vile managed to grab that with a final auto attack. Fluke could be in some trouble. He drops the depth charge. Nash is going to hold him up under the turret. He's actually diving in onto Rafts. There's the top of the Shen delivery. But a beautiful double stun from Shuri. Saves the AD carry's life. Good damage now onto Nash. They're going to turn this one back around potentially as Vile joins the fight. Vayne has to flash away. Roland Max flashes away from a hook. Everything is going down for DGG. And Rafts now is able to come back into the fight. Get some great damage onto Brucey, who flashes as well. Oh, man, so very close. No one is dead, but Rose Noir back away from an unfavorable start to a fight, claiming so many resources on the way out, and get position on the secondary turret, get some good damage on it. And we're still raring and ready for more here.
Shurima was able to save the day there with that double
This is where the double Ocean Drake is going to matter the most. Because look at how much health regen they're getting.
Oh my gosh, this is going to make such a huge difference. Oh, we see Vayne's actually going around back with a teleport.
Yeah, and there's a Hecarim arriving to the fight as well. They're getting done, but they've pretty much fully hit the fight, and they've still got some resources left as he crafts. There's some ultis available. No, actually there aren't. Resources are burned on both sides. Holy is now diving a little bit too far into the fight. There's Vayne on the backside, focusing down Rafts, who does still have that heal available that I was talking about, as well as a red buff to his name, so I don't think Vayne can handle this one, at least not alone. Shurima trades 1-for-1 with Doc. Nash is going to get hunted down here by Vile, who slams lightning into his head for a good old chunk of true damage, and it's a double kill for the Olaf, as there is no stun in the world that can stop that Viking from rampaging. Holy chases down Vayne, and it's a secondary turret fall.
Was used instantly. The moment that Cassiopeia stun came down, he's like, nope.
Yeah, reflexive play from Vile, on point again. And Vile is having, if not an equally good showing to last game, at least a comparatively good showing. 4-1 on Olaf, and showing that he's got some range, not just playing the pure tank Zac. An inhibitor goes down, and Rose Noir in the driver's seat.
They have the bottom inhibitor that is going to open up that Baron very easily, but they're opting to rush down that next dragon.
And that was a really just well-played team fight from both sides, honestly. DGG managed to get a good engage, but they were just a little bit too, I don't know, slow to some of the decisions made in that fight. And so Devious lost out as the fight wore on a bit. And in addition to that, Shurima being able to just about trade a 1-for-1 with Doc was pretty big towards the end there, because it meant there was no more consistent damage output. And the last few kills were really easy to hunt down. This is the third Ocean Drake here.
Vi was in a really good position to. When he chased down Nash, he was behind Roland Max, so Roland Max had nowhere to go. If the Ragnarok hadn't been up, he'd been fine, but.
And once again, Nash's engage was just not quite enough. And I said it in the mid game when he got that triple kill. A lot of the brunt of the burden of carrying this game through a victory, because they had the triple kill and were still even in gold, was going to be on Nash, because he had so much of the money for his team at the time, and he just wasn't able to find opportunities, and that's carrying forwards into these team fights. He looked for a really aggressive ult onto Fluke, and I think he landed onto Rafts as well, but Rafts had enough of a team around him and enough he still had flash and heal up at the time that the Hecarim just wasn't enough. This could be a really good catch. Shurima goes down almost instantly. Rafts doesn't up this time. He's going to leap back with the 90 caliber net, but that's not enough distance. And it's two
Rafts not quite respecting Roland Max there.
Is this still an engagement here from Rose Noir? They are down both of their carries. I don't know if they can realistically take a fight here. Hecarim is at a hook onto Rose, but this isn't enough damage here. Nobody's going to go down without your mid or your AD carry.
They're seeding this
Just take the loss. Take an outer turret loss. It's not a big deal. That was way too aggressive from Rose Noir, but in the end, it's not going to cost them too much. It's still just that outer turret that they lose, but now a kill as well, I suppose. As they do have super minions streaming in bottom lane, that has to be dealt with. Doc isn't around to keep the push going. So I don't know if they can really get a secondary turret realistically here.
Both Holy and Vile are pretty durable, so they can kind of keep them off this tier 2 turret.
Yeah, and it really is just that free pressure they have in the bottom lane that saved that turret, because Doc not being around took a lot of their turret killing power. And is this a Baron?
They're opting to go for the Baron.
Actually not a bad time to do it. Doc is still tied up in the bottom lane. There's a lot of health missing off of Nash, who has to base. But they're not quite quick enough to it. I don't think they can start it now. Nash has been able to base, and he'll be back very soon on Hecarim.
Well, they don't even have to take the Baron. They just need a posture for taking Baron. And it'll be put their base in.
If they can get a kick like that onto Roland, there's the flash into the hook. His signature coming over the wall with that one. And that is Cassiopeia out of the picture. And unlike those picks onto Rose Noir, where Devious was in position only to take an outer turret, Rose Noir is in position to take a Baron now.
And while this is happening, those super minions are pounding away at that Nexus turret.
Ezreal ult way too early to have any hope of claiming this steal. And Vile uncontested will easily bring that down. Now it's just a matter of where Rose Noir want to flex these purple buff muscles.
Well, they're going to go ahead and push that top turret down. It's so close to being dead. There it is.
And that's thanks to all the pressure that Holy had in lane, moving there with the ZZ Rot. And yeah, Holy can, with Teleport and ZZ Rot, just head to a side lane, probably even just bottom lane because the inhibitor's down there already. With Baron buff minions and a ZZ Rot portal and almost no one that can 1v1 him on the enemy team, he can just be a unanswerable question, while the other 4 members of his team look to push maybe mid here as that's where they're grouping. But I don't know, maybe Holy doesn't want to split push, maybe he wants to team fight.
Well, we'll have to see what he does here. We see that Vile has that Deadman's Plate and a Guardian Angel. So he's going to be fast, very scary, and when he dies, he's going to revive.
Yeah, it's just a 5-man shove up mid lane. Nothing too terribly fancy, but it works, particularly with Gold Lead and a Baron buff. That's one of the easier times you can have for forcing your way into the enemy base. Especially with the inhibitor still down in the bottom lane.
Stream taking a very tiny bit of poke there. Nothing too dangerous. They have triple Ocean Drake. So they will quickly regenerate health.
Yeah, that's very true. The triple Ocean Drake is a good point to hit. If they can just avoid taking poke from the Ezreal and the Cassiopeia long enough to basically get their health bar back in a matter of minutes. Particularly these tanks where like percentage health regeneration is so much more effective. If you look at Nautilus right now, he's healing 36 health a second. Which is frankly disgusting.
It's pretty disgusting.
Oh, there's the ulti onto Rafts, and he's charged back into the team fight, immediately eliminated. Really good start, but Roland Max is charged over a Caitlyn trap from the grave. Rafts looks for a bit of revenge, but Roland Max flashes away. He gets shield after shield. The chase continues after the Cassiopeia, but it's a dangerous target to chase. Holy misses the hammer shot and does not claim the kill between the shields. However, the inhibitor turret did still go down. An inhibitor still goes down in the bottom lane. Oh, wow. So overall, Rose Noir still take advantages despite actually losing that team fight pretty heartily.
And they could be in position to take this next dragon as well. Just giving them their 4th dragon of the game. It may look grim for them after that team fight, but they're still firmly in control here. They got 8,
and we're seeing signs of life here. We're seeing signs of life on the side of Devious GG. And a lot of these team fights, they're playing quite well. Particularly, I have to say, Roland Max has done a great job of kiting backwards. But there's just so much of an advantage built up for Rose Noir at this point.
Possibly. We'll have to see if they can somehow
it
make
is very possible. Yeah. Very, very possible that it is too little, too late. Particularly with that bottom inhibitor going down again. That very well could be the final nail in the coffin, because that put them on so much of an edge for like a lot of these fights. It's what basically lost them the Baron. It's what lost them that mid inhibitor turret. It's drawn so much attention. Oh, man. Mountain Drake as well. Like, these are the perfect dragons to be getting for Rose Noir too, because they're playing the objective game to the hilt.
That will let them take down turrets and the next Baron very quickly, and of course they have just regen for Siege. Their Siege game is strong.
I feel like now they should go for the split push here. They should send Holy top. He's got the ZZ Rod off cooldown. They've got an open inhib to push in and free pressure bottom. Like, they don't need to team fight. They don't need to make picks happen. They don't need to play into a Cassiopeia that's starting to hit power spikes. But they're going to take the risk. Shove up his 5 mid. Nash is looking for the flank. Like, we've seen how this story can potentially go. Just last fight. Mid inhibitor's taking a few bits of damage.
They're slowly whittling it down. It's going to regen a tiny bit, but I don't think it's going to the 1 or 2.
But think of all the free pressure they could have gotten on top at this point with holding up there. Like, he's playing up pretty far, but he really isn't contributing all that much right now. A few autos onto the inhibitor here and there. Flanking now onto Nash, actually. This is a disengage here that could potentially work out well for them. Rafts is gonna go down as Nash is on a killing spree. Nash now wreaking havoc in the back line. Fluke is going to fall as well. And once again, we see that Devious are more than capable of holding their own in these team fights, but Doc seems to have gone a little bit too far forward. Cleansing now off the slow, but it's just going to get reapplied. He finds an auto attack on Shurima, but one auto attack was not enough. And now the push may resume. Shurima, you were playing so very aggressively right now, my friend.
Shurima with the no fear.
Not at all, but he stepped on that Cassiopeia poison, which means he doesn't have the Ocean Drake regenerating. Yeah, they need to respect Roland Max a little bit more. Exhaust onto Shurima. He's going to be eliminated. That's the Shadow Dash, actually, for the finish. The inhibitor does fall, so now 2 inhibitors down, but I feel like Rose Noir are just trying too hard to brute force an ending to this game. They can play with a little bit more finesse, a little bit more efficiency, and have an easy win in their hands. But they're pushing where it's hardest to push for some reason.
Well, they do get the inhibitor down, and that opens up their top lane push. They're going to have to go top lane. And during that, we actually kind of missed it. They lost a Nexus turret. So
they did, yeah.
Even with the sloppy late game play, they're still staying ahead.
And it really is just all snowballing off of Rose Noir's previous victories and the fact that they have these humongous tanks. Like in these team fights, we're only really seeing the carries die. Like we always see Vile and Holy and Fluke just walk away from the team fights after their carries are dead. Like, oh, well, I guess we can't do anything anymore. Silly carries dying. But they can play around that. They can send Holy to a side lane to push. They've had this teleport up for 5-6 minutes now, and they're just not making use of it.
Ooh, they do
Dash diving over the.
That's huge.
That's a big deal. Yeah, that's the way that they've killed Rafts. That's the way they kind of made Rafts irrelevant in these fights. Is they've had Nash with Vayne teleporting in on his head, dive directly onto the Caitlyn, just point and click.
Fluke unfortunately missing the hook onto Roland Max. Roland Max is just a huge threat in terms of how much damage he can output. And he's working on his Void Step next, which is going to be a huge difference for the rest of his damage output.
All right, Holy has a ZZ Rod up top lane. Some good pressure as the two other lanes are shoving for free with supers, and this Baron does go down really fast. Look at that, already lost half of its hit points. As I say that they're starting it, Blue Trinket is only going to witness the quick and untimely end of Baron Nashor as Doc finds a quick and untimely end of his own. Oh no, that they had taken that down. The Blue Trinket had just spotted it out. Oh, you don't turn the corner like that into unwarded jungle.
Doc just evaporates under Shurima's damage output, and that is going to give
that very well could be GG. Brucey as well getting caught up. Roland Max, he is the linchpin of these team fights. If Roland Max goes down and Vile seems determined to make him go down, then the fight is pretty much over at that point. But he just about survives. This is two-man stun onto Nash and Brucey, but they're going to continue to make the objectives count. Third inhibitor down. And I think the stat for games 1 with 3 inhibitors down is something like 4.2% or something like
There's
that.
The hook
Teams
onto
very,
Max.
very rarely win. So they've lost all 3, and it looks like DGG are just going to be adding to that statistic as the Nexus is now under fire and there's nothing left to protect it.
That is going to be GG for Reverie Esports. They're going to take this victory and get a free slot into the end of the month buy-in tournament where that has the cash prize. So,
and there's a lot to learn from both of these teams from this game. I feel like Rose Noir played a very, very overly difficult end game for themselves. They had openings macro-wise to push into the opponent's base with far, far less resistance, and they did the opposite of what water does when flowing downhill. They took the path of most